Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Behind the Bench, presented by the NSCAC. Today we have a special guest with us. It's Jose Gonzalez. He's the president and the director of BFUT Institute of Football, and he's also author, coach, and a sports psychologist. Jose, good afternoon. How are you? Welcome to the webinar. How are things?
Oh, thank you very much for having me. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everybody. Well, normally they call me as Thadeu. That's the name I go for the last 43 years, meaning the 33 years here in America. Well, thank you for having me. It's very exciting opportunity I had the opportunity to work with the Canadian Association a few years ago. Now it's nice to have a chance to share ideas with you and through John and make sure that we can learn from each other.
Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, my name is Thadeu Goncalves. I have been originally from Brazil. I had the opportunity to be responsible for the club called Brazil São Paulo Football Club. That was, like I'll say, my first educational laboratory where developing players that some of them ended up going to a very high level, even captain for the national team. After that, I had the opportunity to work in different development, ended up being in the United States for a graduate school, and I had the opportunity to coach Boston University. We had a very positive experience. In 3 years season, we had the opportunity to go for 2 years for the Final Four, Division I, and there was a lot of good players, and it was a good experience for developing methodology. And the third laboratory that really counts for me is when I finished my graduate school and ended up going to Iowa, where we pretty much cut the corners and started to build up something for the youth level. And we had a very interesting success that we ended up with almost 2,000 kids, and it was when we had the opportunity to apply this vertical integration that we're talking. And that's what we're going to be sharing today, how during all these years, travel over the world, I learned that sometimes there's a huge difference between you be a coach and you be an educator. Coach, you get your preview experience, you come from where we have been doing for different coaches that you work together. But when you are going to pass this experience to the players and you are not able to respond or to answer, the three questions, why you're going to do, when you are going to apply special, how do you should perform to that? Could be technical, could be tactical. You always are going to have the difficulties. And that's the topic we're going to be talking today. I'll consider one of the most important topics in terms of tactical, in the tactical area development, is what we base on the mental speed. The mental speed is based on you player, first attacker has the ball, and when he delivers the ball to the second attacker, that's the time that he's going to have from departure to receive the ball. This ball normally comes in 4 heights: on the ground, medium low between foot and the hip, medium high between hip and shoulder, and high, of course. And for each one, why is so important the identification when you are educated mental speed? Because based on the height of the ball of the player now that's going to receive it, is going to adjust the body coordination. It's always important for us to put in consideration that you have 3 major components. You have the defender, you have the player, and you have the ball. Well, to block the defender, of course, always legally, before the player approaches you close, you're going to have the arms 90 degrees. You are able to block that player, that defender. The second part is how well you are prepared to coordinate your upper body with your lower body, with the quickness with your feet, etc., to be able to receive that ball with quality approach. You'll be able to control the ball. Of course, that's when you start our description. I'm going to put a brief video here, and I would like to let this video go through. After that, I'm going to break it down 4 different segments, and we can discuss one of them just to illustrate a little more. Okay.
Perfect. Before we start, if anybody has any questions or comments, please use the chat or the Q&A section, and we'll try to get to the questions at the end of the presentation. If something is relevant to what we're discussing at this moment, then we'll answer that question. Okay, so we're ready to go.
It's very important to understand this video presentation. This video we have an institution called BFUT, and we have 3 levels of development we call educator program. This is from the level 3. It's one of the most important for us in terms of introduction. And the video, you're going to see the qualities. This is what's done 15 years ago. Now we're redoing again. That's why I just apologize. But the content is very important, the way that we present. Let's look at this. We're going to go through is, like I said, the player that finds the height of the ball is able to receive it, control it. What this player is going to do now to really make sure that the mental spirit is there. We are going to talk about these 4 basic aspects that we say the 4 basic aspects of Brazilian soccer, but it doesn't matter where you come from or what's the origin is the basically how I'm going to be able to become a playmaker or a quarterback and be able to all the time create unpredictable decision. Let's briefly look for this video, okay? Concept 3, the 4 major aspects of Brazilian soccer. We're going to be talking now about mental speed. Even today, on the cement futsal courts of Brazil, the youth Brazilian players are still learning these basic aspects without the constant supervision of coaches. The younger players must learn how to move the ball quickly and correctly, avoid injuries, or be blamed for making mistakes from the older players. In this natural process and environment of quickness in their decision-making and movement of the feet, the young Brazilian players develop these basic aspects. In many countries, this is not available yet. The excessive supervision and controlling of games are factors that produce the lack of creativity. It will interfere in the speed of the game, destroy its beauty. The first step in developing your team is cultivating this natural ability to perform the 4 basic aspects of Brazilian football without having to think it before doing it. These aspects must start to be developed at the age of 10 or 11 years old and with any level of technical skills. The Brazilian football philosophy is based on trying to achieve the opposite goal as fast as possible, playing very safely with short passes on the ground, keeping possession of the ball as long as possible. And to make sure these concepts happen, the players must learn at young ages to make quick decisions with the ball. This is the most important tactical concept to be taught to your players. The basic aspects that we're going to be discussing are: 1, ball on the ground permanently, except in situations such as long switch point of attack, long crossing, the number of touches. In order to have a more effective style or way to play, it's very important that the players become unpredictable. The players should not touch the ball more than 3 times in general. We recommend 2 touches in the defensive third and the midfield third. Of course, in the attack, always 3 touches. Just to briefly describe, the idea is not take away the creativity, but if young ages, we are able to educate them a little more about be effective versus be hold the ball too much. That's, everybody faces this is pretty normal. But again, it's not the idea to you cannot use your individual skills or your ability to beat one-on-one. It's just when this makes sense, any the high level or not of risk of you lose the ball, you ended up create a counterattack against your own team. Okay, let me just continue. I hope that the information is helping. The third we're talking now is switch point of attack. It is much faster to serve the ball in diagonal, in triangle. The receiver can more easily adjust his speed to the ball before receiving it. We'll find in many pro leagues all over the world the constant application of passes in square. This kind of passes is a waste of time and it's very possible create a counterattack. I would like to describe here what's happening is 2 versus 1 represents pretty much 60 to 70% of the situations the players are going to be exposed in the game. Now, 2 attackers, first attacker with the ball, second attacker become our option. Now, what's happening is in 2 versus 1, the equal distance between the defender to each one of those 2 attackers is pretty much the same. That could create what become more predictable the decisions make. In other words, when the ball is passing side to side, the probability the defender is going to be pressuring that player because it's so predictable the passing square is going to force the second attacker when he receives this ball, because see the pressure is coming, instead to play quickly means know what he's doing or she's doing, play on hurry, means just to kick the ball, you ended up lose the consistency of the pass to create a counterattack. That's what you try to explain here. The balls always should be done in two different ways. It would be diagonal defensive, feet to feet for safer reasons, or diagonal offensive behind the defender in an open space. It's very important I explain here. The pass is not done by the player with the ball, but always by the player that show up in an open space to receive the ball. That's very important we teach our players. Just completed this third segment. Because always force the players to receive the ball, slow down the attack speed, and of course increase the pressure from the defenders and the probability of mistakes. The passes must be done in diagonal. When the pass is done towards to the players on goal. In this case, the diagonal defensive. Always, yes. When you pass the ball in diagonal defensive, should be done feet to feet for safety reasons. Or offensive, when the ball is redirected to the opposite goal. First attacker has the possession of the ball. The second attacker comes in penetration. The right moment for the first attacker to deliver the ball is when the second attacker is 1 yard before the defensive line. That's a very important point here. In other words, if I don't want to take risk, I'm going to drop it back I'm a second attacker. I'm going to drop it back, show up in diagonal defensive, be able to establish a gap between the pressure and play. And that's why the ball should be delivered feet to feet for safer reasons. But I am a second attacker, very intelligent, and I saw a gap behind the defender. I'm going to go in penetration. Now the play with the ball, the first attacker, needs to have a visual cue again. When is the right time to deliver the ball? Normally we recommend that the ball should or must be delivered when the second attacker in continued penetration is 1 yard before that defender. That's going to be, the ball is going to be put behind, just to complete it.
The four basic aspect of the development of the...
Now we're going to the four aspects. Let's try to summarize what we're talking about. The player receives the ball, protected with the arms, block the defenders legally. Now has a good visual coordination to identify how he's going to use the ball to control the ball. Now the ball is arriving. By the time it arrives, we are going to implement those four basic aspects. Summarize them again. First, let's try to put the ball on the ground. Doesn't mean all the time, but in general, because every player receives the ball, you are able to deliver faster, we can create control. Remembering, you have two kinds of techniques. You can receive the ball, means the player is able to redirect that ball effectively in one touch, or trapping. Needs a second touch and needs to trap and deliver. This is very important to put in consideration too when you are working with the players to keep the ball on the ground. The second factor is minimize number of touches. I mean, why you're going to take a risk, why you're going to be predictable, why you're going to give so much time to the opposite team to get organized defensively. If you can, in a simple movement of the ball, you can create that unpredictable opportunity for counterattack. The third one we just mentioned is avoid square balls. Always the player with the ball should receive an option of the closest player to drop a diagonal defensive, and the pass is done feet to feet for safer reasons. Or the second one is in diagonal offensive behind the defender in continuous acceleration. Now let's talk about the last one. We call the switch point of attack, consistently. That's very important for us to, when we combine those and you put this in an implementation of development, you'll be surprised how quickly the decisions start to happen from your team. Let's continue here.
To speed is the importance of the switch point of attack. The best decision to find gaps in the defensive system, of course, is able to not only avoid pressure, but be able to have the player receive the ball facing always the opposite side where the ball is coming from. This will give the receiver the opportunity to read the full field and make the pass away from the pressure, creating an unpredictable counterattack.
Let me make a little note here. Player A has the ball and player B show up, like let's say A, B show up in defensive diagonal. Now the ball is passing. One of the major problems that we see, especially young ages when we're in development, or even in professional, if you look at Euro Cup today, even Copa America, and all those, you see that the ball's coming from the left. Normally the players receive the ball with the same leg. I mean, the peripheral vision is going to be always the 30% of where the ball came from. I mean, the player by receiver wrong is the reception that was done wrong, already minimize so many opportunities that in terms of switch point of attack, you'll be able to create a counterattack. That's the first thing that you always must be observing your players. Ball coming from the left must be received with the right. Ball coming from the right must be received from the left. Of course, exceptions apply, but there's a simple general idea that sometimes we forget to emphasize, especially with young ages. Let's continue the explanation. Again, thanks for being patient.
In diagram 15, you're going to observe that the second attacker receives the ball, he passes the ball back to the player that had it before. This is very dangerous, very predictable for the pressure that's going to be imposed on that defender. At the same time, it could create a counterattack against your team. That's why this kind of situation must be corrected.
Let me do observation here, but now we're doing short, long. That's a very organized, I said, good tactical scheme to apply. That's a different approach. That's when we are just bringing them to specific plan. Here, we're talking about introducing the first time they're going to start to comprehend what they should do with their understanding, their intelligence to implement, becoming more organized on the field in terms of reception distribution. That's what we're looking for here, okay?
Well-prepared player should always receive the ball, switch the point of attack to the opposite side. With the opposite foot, the way is possible to at least see 3/3 or 3/4 of the field, allowing a really much better peripheral vision. The player should receive the ball facing the opposite goal. In diagram 18, the player receives the ball, turn the body defensive to the opposite side, and make the pass in defensive diagonal. This is the second best option, and this option is applied when...
Let me do a little complement here. On option 1, player A find player B, meaning that was we have five attackers going, and player received the ball and switch to player B that's in the central, okay? Player E, I'm sorry. When the player E received the ball, received the opposite leg, had a full peripheral vision, it was able to switch to player D. But why D is the best option available? It's no longer, I'm sorry, for two major factors. It's knowing the side of the pressure. I mean, if the ball came from player A in this diagram, for the player that received the ball, the right side is where we call the pressure side. This means this player definitely must look for left side as a great way to counterattack. That should be. That's one point. The second is why we're going to use D, because D is the offensive diagonal. Now you enter from a pressure, opposite side ball to be able to a quality player that was not only able to receive it turning, but create a counterattack the opposite side. That's always we'll be looking for from the players when that player doesn't have anybody behind the marking, no pressure behind. In this second situation, it's different. Now the pressure is behind. What's going to happen here?
Player has the pressure behind, he cannot turn offensive. In diagram 19, the ball is going to be passed.
Let me go back to the diagram before. Now, when the ball is delivered to B, because the ball came from A, we try to avoid to deliver the ball back to where the ball came from for safety and unpredictable reasons. Now, but the pressure is behind the player E. What's going to happen? Instead of be able to switch offensive, was necessary to play in defensive diagonal. As soon deliver the ball to B, player E will be able to switch, turn around the pressure. B will find the D. Now we broke the wall of marking. And now D is able to deliver the ball back to E that's come from penetration with no pressure. That would be the second best option available in this case.
Side of the play, but in offensive diagonal. This is applied when the play is in inside penetration, in give goals or wall passing tactical combinations.
The option number 3 is now the player E has the ball, receive it from A, but found C open to do tactical combinations and maintain the inside penetration. That's a decision that's available too, but doesn't mean in terms of creativity counterattack will be the best, but depends where the situation came from. Now,
a quickly counterattack.
Again,
as we mentioned before, in diagram 20, you can see again, please avoid to put the ball back to the pressure, means where the ball came from. This is, again, is very dangerous and very, very predictable, causing counterattacks against your own team.
The mental speed represents educating the players or give the capacity to make a decision before receiving the ball, should have a very good progression to implement each one of those 4 basic aspects. The first one, you establish 15 minutes, only require the players to keep the ball on the ground all the time. If one player make a mistake and deliver the ball in the air, it's going to be requested to do 15 or 10 sit-ups, or maybe the team will lose the ball control or the possess of the ball. The second segment will be 15 minutes, combine ball on the ground and ask for minimize the number of touches. We recommend 2, maximum 3 touches. The third segment is a combination of ball on the ground, minimize the number of touches, and diagonal passes, offensive or defensive. And finally, the last 15 minutes of this development is going to be a combination of ball on the ground, diagonal passes, minimize the number of touches, and switch point of attack. In this case, you are going to be able to observe the complete evolution of your team in one of the most important tactical concepts, the mental speed.
Okay, before continue, I don't know if by chance maybe somebody could have questions or.
I have a question. We have some coaches here, and we'll probably have some coaches watching later on. At the grassroots level, what would be some activities where coaches can work on to improve on some of the topics we discussed in this presentation?
Well, one of the important things that you have to understand is you have to go directly to game situation or game condition, because you have to have at least 4 before to be able to consolidate those 4 aspects, because especially the triangulation. Meaning, the order will be always, you have 2 practices a week, put it together 30 minutes if you can, during the first 4 weeks of the season, separate the 30 minutes and doing those 30 minutes. On day 1, you introduce the ball on the ground for 15 minutes, and you introduce it, minimize the number of touches. 2 concepts. It lets them divide the teams, maybe 3v3, who scored the goal stay, create some little competition around. But it's very, very important that if you make a mistake, you should or sit up or ask it to leave the field or set up or become a direct kick, something, because that one mistake, when it's correct a few times, they will never do again. That's when you see a quick improvement. It doesn't matter the level. Now, the second day of the week, you are going to do is you are going to maintain the ball on the ground. And now you bring, if instead you do 15, you are going to do ball on the ground, and you are going to introduce the diagonal passes. You are not going to minimize the number of touches. Now you go to the third practice. Now you want to do ball on the ground, and now you want to do switch point of attack. In other words, your major function, or very important there, is during that first 3 weeks, they know they must keep the ball on the ground. it to make sure that don't become so repetitive. You add a second, one day, a third the next day, and the four practice of the week. While doing that cycle, you are going to introduce the switch point of attack. After that, you can start to plan around it. Today, now you can play with 2 balls. You can require the players to play the same segment, put okay, we want a ball on the ground, but should be 2 balls. Because now you are forced them to do what? Emphasizing the peripheral vision, because they need to keep eyes on the ball and the player they are marking. Second option is they have to make sure that when they are implementing this, as soon as you increase the number of balls, you increase the number of touches, you increase the situation is going to happen. In other words, as I said before, I recommend to start 10 when they are in 7v7. Does Canada still do 6v6 or 7v7 for the under 10s?
We do 7v7, 6 with a goalkeeper.
Okay, same thing. In other words, that's something that's very important. We teach, and I am planning if I have it as completed this peripheral. Talk about the mental speed is bring a second factor that is going to facilitate much more. This be a little introduction to compactness. Okay, everybody knows what they have to do with the ball. Now everybody start to understand where they have to be as a team. That's a progressive sequence that you do. But back to your question is always putting game condition, always rotate it, establish today or just you are going to minimize number of touch, but your last touch must be with your weak foot. The way you are helping the player not only to minimize the touch, but double legs that you will be able to do. In other words, you always want to bring them to sink against more pressure they can in terms of development.
Thank you. There's no more questions. You can continue.
Perfect. Okay, let me just go to. I lost my.
So stuff like this, you would work on U10 players and older, correct? So what would you do with U8s, U9s, U7s to start getting them to prepare them for the U10?
The sequence will be the same, much slower development. You understand? You are going to probably need 4 weeks to emphasize the ball on the ground. Well, you can do all those things, but you are at the end of those 4 sessions, you want to make sure everybody understood this. Not only we did, is in my plan, we did, let's go to the next one. If the player does not have, and you don't have a continued progressive educational process, that's why we call methodology. You're going to jump steps. You're going to talk. You start one session one day, the next week you jump to another one. The brain doesn't work this way. The brain is simple to the complex, but it has to be very step by step. I have been doing this for 43 years, 34 years here in the United States. All kinds of environments we are talking about, but what always have been noticed, and is the progress that we have when we do exactly the same with the younger ages, but normally we add 3 things. Barefoot. The barefoot cut the half time of the technical progress because you're able to identify the right part, the kids improve there. The second one is the necessity that we have target. We do a lot of cones. But when we get to the game, we have line as a goal. We need to work a little more in objective. And we should start with 7, 8 years old. They need to score 100 goals a day. Kick the ball to the goal. Doesn't matter, we don't have a goal, have a flag. But we need more objective with the players. And back to the third. And the third thing that extremely we need to focus on these younger ages, when you apply the mental speed, is combined with the idea that, remember, we talk a lot about 3 dimensions. Defender, we talk about the player by itself, and the technical capacity to control the ball. Well,
we do not have, especially though this last year and a half has been a challenge for us, our basic flexibility, body coordination has been really going to the bottom. That's something that we should spend a lot of time with the, in terms of the kids. Because if we do not develop their coordination, remember, I mean, if you are in Canada, ice hockey is #1 sport. It's eye-hands coordination, or basketball, eye-hands coordination, or baseball. Suddenly we ask the kids to go to the feet all the way far down there and say, look, now you need to connect that part of your body. And if we do not have a good body coordination, it's going to be a very slow process for our kids to have a good mental speed, because they're combined with their mobility to their coordination is a very slow pace. That's a big factor.
So would you work on the coordination before you start to introduce some of these principles?
Oh, coordination should be taught. When the child starts to walk, coordination should exist. But remember, coordination is a result of the mobility for you, but you depend on the three components. You depend on muscles elasticity, it depends on the bones alignment, and it depends on intensity of the ligaments. Now, with those three components, okay to start it. Every child with a good coordination is going to have a much better mental speed. It's like you asking me to go play. Let's go play ice hockey. In my first day, my coordination to respond to that movement would be totally different if you kick me a soccer ball, because I have been for years and years and years developing my brain to respond to that command. That command, it don't depend only of the ball, depend first to yourself, to your body. And elasticity become another big factor. One of the things that let me go to, I don't know if I answer your question.
No, you've answered them all perfectly. Thank you.
Let me do this now. I'm going to. Okay, this is. I'm going to use a different approach now. Sorry about that. I'm working on that when you were talking. I'm sorry about that. I believe that if we are able to add our mental speed in younger ages, and again, I emphasize the need for our children start to be more barefoot on sand or grass, it's because our children now, they're born and they put sneakers in their foot. That's it. They are going to be flat foot forever. And this is jeopardize balance that can create a lot of major problems. This could jeopardize speed, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, those are important factors that you should put in consideration. Just to go here briefly to compactness. Okay, here we are. Let's say now we got our team and we developed the mental speed. Everybody's keeping ball on the ground, exceptions apply again. They switch point of attack, they comprehend their needs. That's what they have to do. But when this player gets the ball, the only way this player can become effective and predict if he has somebody away from the pressure to pass the ball. Now we are talking about, I understand my job individual, and I receive the ball, become a first attack. But where's my second attacker to my left? Where's my another option, my right? Somebody in that. How we're going to organize? That's why I want to briefly complete our talk a little more about second important tactical concept when you talk about mental speed.
is my comprehension, my understanding where I should be related to the ball. Let's understand here. Can you see the screen right now?
Yep.
Yep. Okay, what you see here is a system. We have 11 players in place. We are using 4-4-2 in diamond. Means we have a keeper, line 1, 2 inside the defenders, line 2, 2 outside fullbacks. Remember, South America in general, but especially Brazil, the outside fullbacks are extremely attackers. That's what we're going to always note. No, the system that Brazil is playing right now, because it's playing a different 3-3-1, but I mean with only one man in the top. But that's a general understanding in terms, if we're going to develop it. It's a suggested system. You have line 3 is a 70% defense, will be your center midfield defensive, 30% attacker. This player doesn't go very often. 2 outside mids, 50% attacker, 50% defender. Remember, they play half outside with the half of the center. In other words, they will take care with those zones here. They do not play wider because we have a tendency to have a fullbacks going to the attack very often. Are you follow me in terms of general idea? Now you go to our offensive mid. Now, what you are looking for here, the diamond, when you play the diamond, you facilitate every team to have consistent links because you create we have a diamond one here, another diamond here. Now, if this player comes here, you have, in other words, you create diamonds all over, triangles, offensive, defense, with diamonds. If the players are able to comprehend this and they have a good mental speed, you can, in 4 weeks, have a very, very interesting improvement of your team, tactically, in terms of mental speed. Let me go to the next diagram. What you're going to look here is, in the system using, just for you understand, we are playing in a field that is 100 meters, and okay, long. 10 meters we're going to give to each keeper. Now we have 80 meters. What we're going to do with that 80 meters? For facilitate the visual cue of the players, we're going to call play a line of players. Okay, I'm using 4-4-2 in diamond. You could use any system you want, okay, it doesn't matter. But remember, more lines of players you have, less is the gap from line to line. And you win or lose games based on gaps. You gave a gap, somebody's going to get gap and create a counterattack. What I'm trying to tell here is, from this point here to this PK, we have 80 meters because we gave 10 to each keeper. Now, if I have 80 meters from PK to PK, how many meters I have to cover here in my defensive 30? 40. Okay, in other words, this is going to be my compactness in a 4-4-2. All the players understand their 4 basic aspects to become their mental speed improved. But now we're going to improve the mental speed of the team. Now we have, like I mentioned before, 6 lines, 5 gaps, 40 yards, 40 meters. If I have 40 meters from the 2 inside defenders to the 2 first attackers, 40, and I have how many gaps? Line 1 to line 2, 1 gap. Line 2 to line 3, second gap. Line 3 to line 4, 30 gap. Line 4 to line 5, 4 gap, 50 gap. I'm going to get a 40 meters divided by 5. This means the distance, the visual distance from line 1, we don't count keeper, from line 1 to line 2 should be 8 yards. If the inside defender is in line with the fullbacks, or they are pushed up too much, the gap will be behind them, or fullbacks are dropped too much, the gap is in front of them. Okay. In other words, I have now 8, 8, 8, 8, 8. Now my team can understand, okay, I am the last defender. My 2 fullbacks are in offensive diagonal to me. I am a fullback. I see my center midfield defensive diagonal central, etc., etc. Now I'm going to understand the 3. Now we need to understand what we call the 3 thirds. In Canada, I'll say third or say zone. It's the expression zones. Okay, defensive, midfield, attack zone. If my team has, each player individually has a good mental speed to receive the ball. and make a correct decision and become unpredictable. And of course, when the decisions make always is going to be able to find players around. Normally in diamond, the diamond shape is the most perfect thing for a player to comprehend in terms of mental speed team. Because play with the ball, example, this player has the ball, has a lefty option, has a right option, it has an option in depth. With the diamond, this player can penetrate outside right, outside left, or through the middle. That's when we can become more unpredictable. My point here to you is, now we maintain 40 meters in each one of the three sectors or zones. From each player maintain their 8 meters from line to line, and we move it together, of course, related to where the ball is. And that's a very important point for us to put in consideration, okay? And after that, we start the game. How we're going to pressure them, how we're going to use high pressure. Example, now we start to talk about the ball is dead. I just don't want to go too far on that because it's one concept will push another one. But as soon my team start to how push forward, how push back, relate to where the ball is, because if you move back and forward, of course, to make sure that you are overloaded the ball zone and you have more than 2 or 3 options to pressure that situation, be able to get the possess of the ball. But let's go now to the complement of the conversation we had. Now, when you talk about mental speed, now you're talking about player mental speed. Now you're talking about team mental speed. When you talk about mental speed, those compactness, the compactness can be maintained or can be taken away. It depends on each player, because each player must be focused enough to understand their function. One player, we are, let's say, example here, the yellow team is defending. The first we call the 6 speeds of the game. Okay, the first speed we call normally called speed of mark is because the ball is dead. Every time the ball is dead, I'm playing 4-4-2 in diamond. I want to play high pressure. This means I'm going to have one free defender. Every player is going to be marking, and except in this case, I have one attacker because I'm playing 4-4-2, and the opposite side, outside mid, become the second player. Those 2 are going to cover those 3 to allow this player to be free. Again, look at how much concept, how much commitment, a compromise I'm asking from the players to use their intelligence to be able to comprehend. You understand how this concept could go. In other words, now the players has individual mental speed, has a team mental speed. Now they're going to be exposed to the speeds of the game. Like I said, we have 6 speeds of the game. First one speed is defensive, ball is dead. All the players are well organized. And in this case, I'm using high pressure, like I said before, because I have one player free. I want to go, but I don't want to take a risk. Now, when you move it down a little bit more, I'm just trying to show you, again, the players are individually, they are intelligent. They understand their mentor, their responsibilities as a team. And if 5 minutes to go, 0-0, you have to win the game to be able to succeed, to be able to go to the finals. Okay, the decision was made. Instead, we have one free man. We're going to go full pressure now. Still the same ball is dead, but now I'm taking a risk. I don't have my keeper here, but my keeper is going to become the defender, the last defender. Why? Those fullbacks, those inside defenders are marking. Outside mid, the fullbacks become outside mids. Outside mids push up to mark their fullbacks. I'm full pressure now. But why the players decide to go for full pressure? They know how they play. They know they need the results, but they understand that everybody must commit and move together as a unit to be able to get the results. Okay. In other words, now you are going to have different different kinds of situations based on those speeds that I mentioned to you, okay? When you get to the point where the ball is no longer dead, now the ball is in movement, okay? The right fullback from the yellow team, he took a long pass, he made a mistake, and now the opposite team got the ball. Now, the ball was no longer dead. Now the ball is in movement. When the ball is in movement, to improve the mental speed of my team, I want to make sure that the closest player, now go back to the basic. First attacker, go to first defender. Second attacker, go to the second defender. Everybody will be moving up forward together to be able that no player will be free of marking. Again, team mental speed. They react fast, they will understand the compactness, and that's when they approach the players. I'm going to give a little stop here to see if we have any questions. And I hope you understand the concept. Sometimes it sounds like I don't think this is able to happen. You'll be surprised how much results we can have when you invest in the player's intelligence. It's unbelievable.
What age would you start implementing these ideas, Thadeu?
You are talking about now the mental speed, any age, like we said, but you focus more when they are going to 7v7, like I said, being 9, 10 years old, because you are going to have always the triangles much more available to when they play and we do the training. But when you're talking about here in terms of the speeds of the game to have an organizational approach, this goes the same age. You can start to teaching compactness when the child is play 7v7. It's the same, okay? And of course, we have the manuals, we have the transcript, we have all the information, how you do. It's a process, like I said, it's a little method to approach. But this, as soon as the player moves from 4v4 or 5v5, it goes to 7v7. Now you have the double triangle, because you can have as 2 times 4v4.
Yeah.
Now, with that shape, with that organization, you are going to build the rest of your club or the rest of your team, because he's under 7, but you're going to call the keeper, the last defender you're going to call inside the defender, the left defender, left fullback. They will grow during the next 6 years, 7 years old, until they get to the transition to 13. Okay, that transition, 6 years old, we're talking. They are going to be learning the responsibilities of each position related to the number of players they will have. That's going to be basically working forever. Now, okay, today you play right fullback. Okay, I am a right fullback. So when the ball is the opposite side, I check in. When my team is penetrating or circulating point of attack, I can go to the attack. You go, et cetera, depending the level of the team, depends, of course, the level for players. But the progression, it sounds complicated the way when you talk the first time. But when you start to put this in a process and you link this to educational videos, you bring the players for a few minutes in front of the TV, show them, you'll be surprised. You'll be surprised the response you're going to have.
Yeah, I think it's about having a plan and how you want to execute the plan, and being patient during the development process with the players, right, Thadeu?
Exactly. Like everybody else, everything you do. But one thing that's important is we have in North America, Canada, United States, we have a huge number of players under the same umbrella. If we could have this integration, you jump, you're 9 years old, you're going to focus on this. Now you move to 10, it's a continuity. We don't repeat what was done in 9, but we could have this, I'll call vertical integration with consistency. I believe that a lot of people do, a lot of people looking for, but it's no, okay, today we're going to do introduction of shooting. Now we're going to do shooting versus a static obstacle. Now we're going to do shooting versus a real defender. Now we're going to play a game that you can only score with shooting. I mean, basic progressions, but that's to facilitate your brain to work, because you cannot go there today. I work on offensive head, and tomorrow I do long cross, and now I'm going to do passing there. You understand my point? Is how you're going to link your integration of your techniques with your physical development, with the tactical concepts, etc. This is, it's like how many years you have been doing, Valerio? I mean, you create your own methodology. You know what works for you. You know when you see the child what you're going to feed. That's something that you develop it based on the years and years of observation, analysis, and implementation. And that's, I believe in what I teach. I don't believe in tell the players pass the ball without explaining to them why they're pass, when do they pass, and how do they pass. If the educators that work with me do not answer those 3 questions to the players, we're not teaching. The player going to go in, and probably leave it better, shooting better, because for some reason, by instinct, you teach a little monkey to how kick outside foot, he's going to be perfect. It's by instinct. It's not by intelligence, by comprehension. Oh, if I have my toes up a little more, if I move my opposite foot a little closer, so now we're talking about the little basics of the technique. I don't try to go away from our topic. I just try to tell you little things that maybe could help us. But look at how far we are. Look at how many players we have playing. Look at, it's amazing how much improvement. We just need to give our players more functional training. What's my function? What do I do when I play? And let them grow together with their conditioning, together with their technical abilities, together with their tactical team concept. But no functional, no position. That's definitely we should spend more time is teaching position for the players in the group.
Thank you very much, Thadeu. I don't think there's any questions. Our time is wrapping up. Anybody that would like to see this presentation again, it'll be up on the NSCAC website in a few weeks. For those of you that have not registered or become a member, please become a member of the NSCAC. It's a great organization. We even have a partnership with US Soccer where you can get the US Soccer membership in conjunction with the NSCAC. So visit our website, nscac.ca. Thadeu, it's been a pleasure. I've learned a lot, like always. It's good to I think of myself as an educator, and if we are expecting our players to improve every day, I think our players are expecting us as coaches to improve as well, right? And I think this was a wonderful presentation, and I thank you for all the time and efforts you've put in today's webinar. So thank you very much. Stay safe, and we'll be in touch.
Thank you. God bless you. Thank you, guys.
God bless you too.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everybody.
Well, thank you very much again, Valerio, for having me.
It's my pleasure. Did you enjoy it?
I did. I don't know the public that we had, if I was too fast, if I was too confused, but that's my mission, is believe that we can make our players better, let them think and help them to think. That's what I believe.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think you whenever you're doing something, you have to have something inside the session where the players are thinking for themselves and understanding why they're doing something, and the who and the why and the what, because the game of soccer is about processing information and problem solving for 90 minutes. And if you don't develop that in training, it's hard to then put that into a game situation and expect them to solve those kind of problems. If, like you said, if all you're doing is working on the technical, right?
Exactly. But let's see what we can go. If anybody needs anything, one thing that we do have our levels of education, if anybody interesting. But more important is we can, if anybody wants to come visit us or bring a team, or you want to come spend some time, see how do we do. Okay, we have the beach soccer, we have the adults, we have the little ones, we have different levels, different methodology, different curriculum to approach. That's very interesting, something that one of these days, if you want to come, I'd love to have you visit us.
I would love to come. I own my own soccer academy, so it'd be good for me to, I love to learn and I love to be around all this stuff. And it was a great presentation today, what you discussed. And I teach a lot of the mental speed because I like to play fast, right? And the quicker you move the ball and the quicker you move off the ball, the more effective I believe you'll be, and the higher your success rate will be. When you're teaching 2v1, I have one question, and the player receives the ball. What do you want their first instinct to be? To attack the player with the ball, to attack the defender, or to look for the player that's making the movement, the run off the ball?
Well, he becomes the first defender now. He needs to be concerned about who has the ball. And the maximum he can do is try to delay a little bit more the decision made for this new first attacker and make sure somebody comes to help. Because if he follows the second one, the other one's going to do individual penetration. If he commits too much with the play with the ball, could be a risk. In other words, he's going to have to balance a little bit there, and that's a key situation. It's delayed the decision by the new first attacker, pass the ball to the second attacker. Now I am the guy that's going to be first defender versus become first attacker. If I follow this one gap there, but if I can balance a little bit, move a little bit, I'll keep eyes on that guy if the ball is passing, or I keep this guy if he go for penetration. That's probably 1, 2, 3 seconds there that you have to try to gain to see if somebody comes to take care of that second man.
And what about the player receiving the ball? What would you want them to do? Attack the defender or look for the second attacker?
No. Go to the goal. Effective. Be effective. The word is now be unpredictable. You are unpredictable, but be effective. Remember when I said it's too many training with the square, toom. But our kids need there's the goal. How can I get there? Oh, this way or that way. I think we need to put a little more real establishing. I always say, and I didn't mention, but we have 6 ways to score goals in soccer, right? Dead balls, shooting from outside 18 with power, short cross when the ball's crossing back and finish with it on the ground, long crossing with the medium high or high balls finishing, individual penetration, or tactical combination. Well, if I'm going to get my players to do something, to make a decision, always I should be thinking, if I do this, offensively, I can create a defensive short cross. He's going to the end, he's going to cross. At the same time, I give my defender to comprehend, hey, wait a minute, if this happened here, what I'm going to do here, the way when it comes to the game, I remember. That's what I'm saying, the mental speed is the intelligence, comprehending that. Okay, and it's been fun.
It's been fun. Thank you.
More than welcome. God bless you. Say hello to John. Anytime
You too.
we'll be around, okay? God bless you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ciao.
Bye-bye.